Hello, Cosmic Crew. How's everybody doing this Cosmic Chiron season? Right? Oh, I'm sorry I don't look pretty. Oh. Let's just say we're integrating lots of energy. Lots and lots and lots of activations, lots of energy, good stuff going on. But a little, whew. So, and we need to talk about this new moon, and we need to talk about this Chiron wound and how we're called on as beings. Sometimes some of us play, we all have different roles, right? We all have different missions. We have side missions. We have different things that we signed up for. Different reasons that we go places, which is what I want to talk about right now. How we're guided to go places and give you an example of what has happened with me personally over the past few days, how beautiful and crazy it's been, but how these things might be picking up in your life, because everyone right now is talking about, we're releasing, which we are, we're releasing all these programs is not even a good word for it, but not a program. When we say programs, we mean like computer program can't go right unless this computer program tells that data it can go right, or it's going to constantly go left. That type of program. Not let's get up and go work out, and in the morning then we'll do this. That's like getting with the program. I'm talking when I'm going all over the place. So let me just start talking about this Alamo thing, all right? Well, let me back up just a little bit. So when we get in line and in the flow, and we start living more through our heart and intuition, start following our intuition and are aligned with our energies, and we're balancing our energies, then what happens is, right, we're picking up all these different experiences, and some of us process energy through experiences. Some of us process them through the dream dimension, when we're dreaming. We all process lineage, healing, release, and all have a different way of processing this energy. There's no other way to put it. For me personally, the transits just pop up in my life. And yes, I have an astrologer. I watch her most of the time, every day. It's beginning to where I watch it more at the end of the day, because sometimes I just want to see, am I on the right path, or if it's going to be a crazy energetic day. Then I'll know, right? Or I feel something coming in, I'll watch it in the morning. But for literally, like when our Taurus went in a transit, I had 4 or 5 people in my life that, in my experience, that just started popping in, all from Taurus, like at the same time. And we've talked about, my Venus energies. So there's lots of huge transits coming up. The biggest thing about how this Chiron healing manifested in multidimensional ways of releasing within my experience is because my Chiron is in Aries too. So the collective Chiron, which is your wound, which is your soul wound, when you came here, It's the one that your soul had, not this lifetime, you know, not a bad relationship, not a loss of a business. You know, this is down to the soul level. What is it that really upsets us, right? Or what experiences make us react in a certain way. So my son is 10, and his name is Rex, and he's been asking to go to the Alamo. He's been fascinated with the Alamo, and we're not far from San Antonio. We live in Texas. So it was spring break this week, and so weeks ago I told him, we'll go to the Alamo. Like most of you guys right now, I try not to make big plans and have these concrete dates, because with everything going on and the energy's processing through us and these solar flares and what the collective's doing, you know, we never know from day to day what is going to come into our experience. So I just told him, you know, hey, we'll play it by ear. Well, of course, I ended up making the decision, right, to go down on Tuesday, which I don't know if y'all remember Tuesday. Let's think back to Tuesday. Tuesday was that day that the energy was just so intense. And here we are driving down the freeway and going south towards, you know, the border. San Antonio's not on the border, okay? San Antonio is where the Battle of the Alamo happened, and it's right there, had an anniversary of the township 300 years ago. Well, at the further and further south that we go, you know, before I left, about 2 or 3 days before we left, I knew that we were going to have a healing mission when we went. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. When we first got activated back in May, and then so June and July of last summer, went on some road trips, and we were called a couple of times to a specific cave in Missouri, where we had to go because my ancestors, from this lifetime, relatives were passed away, 2 of them in a 7-day period. So I was familiar with, you know, being called on these missions and going with more of my oversoul, my higher self, and guiding me. But the energy was building up really intense before we went, and then the whole way there, on the way there, that day was like the first of these Chiron connects, and how it manifested in my experience was a few ways. And the first one that really got my attention was, we're driving and I don't have the radio on. I'm listening to iTunes and stuff, you know, on the radio, on my phone. And so I'm getting like every text, every phone call. So I'm in the car with my son, and we're trying to, you know, traffic's really bad. It's like the collective was just completely off. People were slamming on their brakes. There was tons of traffic. It was just very strange how everyone was driving, and what was going on the roads. The police officers, there was 3 or 4 police officers that had people pulled over, which is normal in Texas, but they all had them pulled out of the car. 3 of them were getting arrested, which you never see, you know, back to back to back. We're driving, and this is the first time I've gone on a car trip this conscious and aware. And we're driving, and we're in the fast lane, and then all of a sudden, you know, I mean, and we're back to back because it's spring break, and all of a sudden someone would slam on their brakes, and, you know, I'd clutch Rex, and we'd hold tight, and then I'd get over like within a minute and look ahead, and there'd be no cars. It was the more, and all the billboards on the side of the road, that it was just, I felt, oh, it was just intense. Meanwhile, we're listening to music, and I'm getting these phone calls from these fake IRS people, you know, that are telling you, you're going to go to jail if you don't pay the IRS, which, you know, we know this isn't true, but I'm getting tons of these calls. And then all of a sudden I get I'm starting to get text demanding passwords. You know, it's the ex asking for the freaking password again. We talked about this. That started happening. And then these other people that have been out of town, I need to get something to them, but they've been out of town and I'm out of town, you know, and they're blowing up my phone all at the same time. So it was like I was having all these different triggers with money, with friendship, with past relationships, with control. While I'm driving down a freeway 80 miles an hour in this crazy traffic, in this intense energy that I just feel building. And it was, we knew that it was challenging because I knew it was in me and it was my power. I wasn't going to give my power away. I kept calling in my energy, calling in the energy that, you know, calling for my guides, calling for my higher self. And it was, man, Tuesday was a battle. That's all I can say. It was the most mental battle I have been in a while. But by the evening, and once we got down to San Antonio, now when you go down south, and I went to college down there, and this was another piece of the clearing. Now I'm going to get into more of the healing. Before we left, I knew I was to plant a crystal at the Alamo. And I'll tell you a little bit of how we did that. But remember, I'm adopted. So this is important to understand with this lineage, because what I want to talk about is how this was bloodline. This was ancestor for us personally and for the collective to release. If you watch me all the time, if you didn't catch a video or about this, I guess it's been about a month and a half ago, because, you know, we've been healing this personal healing journey of bloodlines, and again, I'm an AB negative, okay? And now that I'm meeting more and more AB negatives, we seem to have this almost perfect mixture of malevolent and benevolent beings. And that's the A and the B, right? So it gives us a, you know, number one, we're constantly balancing. But number two, with the healing of the karmatic situations that are experiences that are coming up to heal this ancestor line, and especially if you're a negative, it goes, you know, goes pretty damn far back. But what's been interesting and what I want to share, and I'm sorry if I'm going all over the place with this. This is not really easy to talk about. About a month and a half ago, I found my birth grandmother. Now, my birth father has passed away, and I knew that. And for 10 years, I had been looking for some of my family. And so when I was activated about 10 months ago, and I'm doing these healings and calling in our highest timeline and doing all this internal work to heal, you know, just my DNA, period, which, you know, knowing what we're finding out now about who and what type of beings we are individually, then we have a better understanding of why specific experiences are popping up in our life. Well, I came to find out through my birth grandmother who some of my true relatives are. And this is, you know, the first time in Christy's life that I've really been able to do that. I knew who my birth mother was. I had no idea really who my birth father was. And on his side, let's just say it's quite interesting. And it's really cool. I have a great, I believe it's a great grandfather that was a notorious gunslinger. And I didn't, you know, I don't know if that was just there for me to make a connection, but didn't realize how much of his karma I was clearing until I got to San Antonio, okay? So we get there, we go to the Riverwalk, we have a great time, really had a great time with my son. It was a trip we needed. But that night, I could not sleep. My heart was racing. The energy with the solar flares, everything was, this is again Tuesday night that I don't know if you guys felt any of the rhythmic heart stuff. I mean, we finally went to sleep. I went to sleep maybe around 1, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, bing, it was one of those, you know, I'm dropping your body off type of things. Look at the clock. It's exactly 5 o'clock. And I was just preparing. I was being prepared. I was being prepared to go to the Alamo. Well, the night before, what movie starts coming on? You know, you go into a hotel, you click on the TV, they don't have a lot of channels, and we don't watch TV normally anyway, so, you know, I told Rex we can watch a movie if you find a movie, but anything else I don't want to see. So, and what's on? Young Guns. So we're watching Young Guns, and I'm telling Rex what I know about his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, and we start Googling, and all these synchronicities start going off in the movie because it really, you know, could have been based on him. And so that became really intense, right? And really in my awareness as well. So when we got to the Alamo, the first thing that I was drawn to were the trees. And, you know, the whole trip, I kept seeing as an aware, conscious being, you know, things like this, for instance, you know, on the waterway and the Riverwalk, because it's all right around each other, and it's all the canals where the boats and everything were coming off during you know, that battle of the Alamo, and the one that lasted, you know, years before that, for no reason. I mean, why were we doing that? Which was the reason we were there. And the waterway comes to an end, you know, and they've got these, on the sidewalks, they have the sidewalk tiles are shaped like this, but there's a square, but there's triangles pointing to each direction. I'm like, oh, Rex, look, you know, north, south, east, west, that's the water. And then when they got to the channels, what they did is they put 5 big circles, and I got a really cool circle because it dot, 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 what's next? But there were 5 of them. And so when I saw the big circles on the river, I said, oh, I bet it's, you know, there's a change coming up. And then you see another 5 huge, huge circles on the sidewalk. But this was the way, you know, that the boat drivers could tell. And so there's numerology. It was really cool. Got to throw that in there. But when we got to the Alamo, we're standing in line, and the trees are just so big and beautiful. And the auras were just glowing. And I touched the tree, and my feet chakras just lit up stagnant. I mean, stagnant is not stagnant, electric. And I felt like a rush of energy to my lower half, which, you know, I immediately brings me pain and sadness. And I can't describe the feelings that we had when we got into the Alamo. But I knew that both Rex and I were there to transmute the light. And I teach Rex about this stuff, because our kids know, and I need to do a video on this, just it never seems to be what's happening, you know, what needs to get out right this second, but it does, and our kids know more about this than we do. And so, you know, Rex calls on his highest timeline when he's with me, and, you know, he knew that we were going to plant a crystal. He knew what we were doing there. And so, you know, I just kept, turn it into light, turn it into light, turn it into light. Thank you, you know, for all of, we have to look at the wars and the death and rejoice that we aren't there anymore. And realize, you know, even movies like Young Guns, and even, you know, with birth fathers who, like in my instance, you know, there's so many people have done, you know, prison time. But again, that doesn't define who they are. You know, it's kind of like that Young Guns movie. Yeah, he, you know, Billy the Kid or Little Arkansas, wasn't necessarily a bad guy. You know, he had a lot of that, that negative, RH negative type of DNA in him for sure. And he knew how to manipulate matter for the most part, and energy with the bullets and the situations he got himself out of. But he killed a lot of people. And so there's, you know, don't ever forget that. There's always a different perception. But he also, what he was doing was helping people keep their land from the government. I mean, the same shit that they were fighting for back then, 300 years ago in 1835, is the same crap we're fighting for right now. And it's to not repeat. Then they were they're getting their lives back. So you could just feel these waves processing through us. We got out of there and we went to go find a place to bury the crystal. So Rex and I both held on to the rock, the crystal. We put a lot of energy. We both consciously put energy, thanking and grateful for all the death, all the war, all the pain, but releasing all of it and releasing the souls that were locked there if they chose to go to the light, and just being so grateful for the opportunity to be there, to deliver back to Gaia, where she had soaked up so much blood. And so I'm trying not to get caught by the cops, and so we put all our energy in the crystal and dig up an area and plant it. And then as soon as we did, we were walking by the building because we planted it right by a little bit to the right to where like the cathedral and stuff was. 3 squirrels popped out on this tree next to us, and I knew that Gaia got it. And I knew that there was just like this whoosh release. And I turned around to look at the building, and I snapped a picture right then, and just the sun coming in, and then there was like a haze. I mean, you could see the energy shift. And then I knew for then it was complete. And every day since, periodically, that crystal calls to me. And I send that crystal love. But when we prayed on that crystal, Rex and I, and put our energy into it, we also upgraded, not upgraded, but cleansed our multidimensional ancestry that fought on that land. And we released all the judgment and the shame and the remorse and the pain that they caused in other people's lives, because nobody knew what they were doing. I mean, it's really amazing when you go to the Alamo and you really sit there and think about, you know, these cannons that they had that they find out were 1,000 years older than the Alamo. So they were, what, 1,300 years old? And they came from Spain, and some came from England. And so it ended up being, the whole entire trip was about this particular Chiron wound of our lineage. And it had this Western theme, and it was just that time period. The other thing that we're seeing now, you know, remember, for 10 years I couldn't find anything about my birth dad. And then as I'm doing these timeline healings and collapsing, you know, releasing, because I first had to realize that, you know, my Chiron wound for me personally, I know is abandonment. It's abandonment and not feeling loved. And then, you know, looking for that love on the outside, which is Libra. You know, remember, I'm six planet stellium. So it's all about keeping that balance when you're in a relationship, when you're not in, you know, when you're not in a relationship. But this particular experience was something I wanted to share because, you know, I think sometimes we listen to astrology and we listen to these, our readings or whatever it is you do, or your chant, or, you know, even your messages, or even to your own DNA when it starts opening up and talking to you. And your message don't, you know, most of my messages don't come from outside, they come from inside. You know, we listen to all that stuff, but then we go about, you know, we go about our normal lives. And then we drive the kids to school, and we've got times to do this and times to do this, and we got soccer, Chronos bullshit. If we're doing that, then we're not able to go with the flow. We're not able to listen to the universe, and we're not able to heal the planet. It's a new moon. Tomorrow morning, it's a big one. And it's all leading up to this big full moon of Libra, which Libra, again, is balance. Libra's, I'm trying to think where you're from. You know, Libra and Aries are 300 and 360. I'm sorry, my physical body and my brain is just... They're polar opposites. It's actually how it is on the zodiac, you know, the original. If you just put the zodiac the way it is, you know, how it starts and stops. It starts with Aries, and then it goes all the way around to Pisces. But then directly opposite is Libra. The collective Chiron wound is in Aries. The collective wound is that we've been ruled by Mars. We've been taken over by the cavemen. can't get mad at an Aries for not understanding how to treat you in a relationship, because it's like asking a kindergartner to do your taxes. For real. But as a collective, as humanity, and over the past, we won't even get into how many thousands of years, this has been our wound. We've been ruled by the patriarch, inside, outside, in astrology, in the dirt, and we're part of the planet. We forget this. We forget this. We forget this. When we meditate, there's so much disclosure coming out right now, too. And I posted something on Cosmic Christie Facebook if you want to check it out. I've listened to 3 of them, and man, let's just say there's a lot of us that are starting to come forward. And that made me lose my train of thought. I'm sorry. But he even said in the 3rd video, you know, that even though he trained, you know, for years and was trained by the call Ankara, is what I always called him in other incarnations and other dimensions. I think, what are they, the Cabal. They're trained by the reptilian dark forces. This guy had psychic. A lot of the times you have negative bloodlines. If you have the X factor with the X marker, call it the X factor, but the X marker, that's how they found us in the 70s and 80s. That's how they used our gifts, our psychic gifts. So this particular person, you know, was put into the reptilian army and was off planet. And it's kind of like a Corey Good type of story, but man, a lot more detailed. And so check it out, please, while you can. It's on my Cosmic Christie Facebook site. It's on YouTube, but check it out while you can, because I don't know how long it's going to be on there. There's 3 or 4 videos. But even he, you know, he had 20 years of training, 20 years of psychic training, you know, because that's what his missions were. That's why he was picked, because of the psychic ability. But he even forgets to pull the energy back when he meditates, you know, into the earth, and he acknowledges this in the video and tells us that he did. And so, you know, making sure that even whenever we meditate and we connect into different planets, or if we're just connecting the energy, you know, up and down your pillar, just please remember to just ground that energy into Gaia. And I know most of us do this, but releasing is for full moons. New moons are manifesting. And so right now we are going through this cleanse of these Chiron wounds. But what it means to transmute that energy was a beautiful moment as we're driving out of Austin yesterday. So we made our way back to San Marcos after our Alamo experience. Cleared some personal timelines there. The whole time I was in town, I kept having these memories of this crazy shit I did in college. And it was, you know, just these little thoughts, and I'd have to go, okay, I released that, you know, it doesn't matter, it led me to here, thank you for the experience, thank you, da-da-da-da-da, and then I'd let it go, and then another one would pop up. So it was just constant the whole trip, really, until yesterday, whenever we had gotten out of San Antonio and San Marcos, where just so much death and so much of the wars and battles had happened, that when we drove out of Austin yesterday, I just I was calling in the highest timeline. I was releasing everything as we were driving away, and my higher self again took over, and I just started saying out loud and calling it in that we were leaving it behind. It was all behind. Christ consciousness is being birthed. This is the last of it. There will be no more war. There will be no more death. Death is over. War is over. Well, death isn't over. Death is never over, but killing each other might be a little bit better off, at least in wartime. And it was freeing, and it was wonderful. And then we got home last night, and this is another thing that's really cool. You know, when you start down a path like this and are in the flow, you usually get an answer pretty quick when we go on these little missions. If either you don't hear anything and you know, okay, well, maybe it wasn't as powerful as I thought, or, you know, or you have an internal knowing that it was all good. But then there are certain occasions, and this has only happened twice with me, where I'll get special messages. And I knew, oh, my ears going crazy. I knew when that happens, try to tune up into it. Tune up into it. I knew that we had definitely done some healing, because I felt it, and I know I'll keep going with this, because when this happened last time, the next couple of weeks, actually about the next 30 days, I'm going to say there's going to be some shifts that happen because of this clearing in my experience personally and my son. And these are these time shifts and these speeds we're talking about, because we're clearing so fast and it's bumping up. You know, remember, I didn't even know about these people a month and a half ago. Now I'm clearing their lineage, and they're all Wikipedia worthy, right? So what's gonna happen next? So I'll keep update on that. But I just wanted to give y'all a little story about the pilgrimage to the Alamo. And sorry for not being around so much. But before tomorrow morning, if you're still hanging in there with me, don't forget to write down your manifestations. And be detailed about them. I just read through a bunch of the ones that I've done over the past 10 months, and in a crazy way, it's amazing how many of them have been called into my experience. So I have a journal where I write new moon of blah, you know, yada yada, full moon of blah 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 blah. What am I releasing? And the full moons, I don't do it as much, but on the new moons, remember that moon. I described it the other day, and it was just, it came out this way, and it really was a great analogy. The full moon is luminous, right? I mean, you've got all that energy. It's like a spotlight on you. It's like, woo! Here we go. You know, the new moon, the full moon's like, wah, wah, wah. It's coming straight at you, right? So you got all that energy coming through your emotional body, through the moon, and it's like radiation, surgery, right? Release. That's what full moons mean, release. Got that energy coming at me. Now, on a new moon, and this is going to work out great. On a new moon, you've got the black side of the moon on this side, right? All the energy is now going this way. So it's like kind of like a black hole sucking, you know, and coming out this way. So the energy, you're manifesting, and you're putting that intention into the moon from the dark side. You're releasing and getting surgery, releasing on the full moon. So on the on the new moon, and also go look and see what you were born under, because whatever moon you were born under, you have more of your gifts are in that area, and more of your affirmations or any of the ceremonies or I don't want to, your magic. Whenever you're doing those things, that you have more of your energy. That's when your moon emotional, more balanced. You know, you're connected to it. So check that out. But write down your manifestations, and don't forget about Gaia, Terra. Don't forget about the Earth. Don't forget about humanity. You know, in the beginning, that's, for me, that was all I talked about was world peace and the Earth. So cut out pictures, do, you know, whatever in your manifestation journal. But for real, if you can, please take the time to at least write out your manifestations and read them tonight. And process them and think about how they would make you feel if they all came true. And ask for them out loud. And when you ask for permission. And then just state it as if it is. And let that magic happen. So let's see what happens next. Let me know if you like me talking about this. I'm not embarrassed at all. It's actually pretty freaking awesome. It's just kind of a personal thing to talk about. So, can I get a hoot hoot? I'll be back soon, guys. Just FYI, I sold my house. Yes. So I'm like selling all my stuff. So I'm almost all the way free from all of that mess of corporate Christie's life, and can start doing more videos. Because there's a lot going on right now. A lot. I love you guys. I love you all of the all. For we are not small. We are taller than tall. Mwah.